Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the latest edition of the AP Breakdown on the Arrowhead Pride social channels on YouTube, on Twitter right now, live for you Wednesday night. Kind of getting the week 4 going here, coming to you. Still going to look back at week 3 though. I'm Ron Kopp Jr., lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. With me, as always, Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter. And we are here to break down another Chiefs win. And again, I will be, kind of, nitpicking, during a win as I did last week as well. But that's what we get. We're the Super Bowl champions, 2-time defending champions. We're going to have high expectations. So that's why we're looking at the offense, seeing why, maybe it's not rolling like it should be, Caleb.
So the offense, the first couple weeks of the season, it's felt a little bit off, yet we have seen like some big plays and some great instances. It's just it's a culmination of a lot of different little things that's coming together, whether it be, just a little bit of rust week 1 versus Baltimore, week 2, bad offensive line play. And then Mahomes and Kelsey in week 3 were not quite on. They've been a little off all season. I don't think there's like some hidden beef or anything. I think that sometimes it just takes older players a little bit to get going. And honestly, I think that later in December, we're going to be lucky that Kelsey is not taking this much abuse on his body, because I think that they're going to lean on him a lot more down the stretch. But I think it's good for Rashee Rice to be carrying a lot of the load right now in these games. That they're important games. Like these games we've been playing, these first 3 games, they're important, yeah, but this isn't where you're winning a championship. This is where you're trying to get wins and just keep trying to move on 1 week at a time. So big picture, I'm not really that concerned. I kind of have a suspicion that the colder the weather gets, the better Kelsey's going to look.
I mean, that was the case last year, right? No, and you did a good job previewing my section for the show, because I'm going to be looking at Mahomes' day in Atlanta, and just maybe why Kelsey isn't racking up the yardage. It was actually interesting to listen to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes today in their press conferences talk about it. I wrote it up for the site. Make sure you go check that out. Make sure you also go check out all of our film reviews. One thing, Caleb, we're talking offense tonight. Didn't get any defense, defensive breakdown for the people this week or last week. And the defense has been playing, very well. So got to give a shout out to Nate Christensen. He has a great write-up on the site about the defense, how they played in Atlanta. So make sure you go read that too. But Caleb, you wrote about Wanya Morris for the Chiefs starting left tackle all of a sudden. Week 3 gets thrown in there after obviously we all saw Kingsley Suamataia get benched in week 2. You kind of alluded to that. And so, I think it's interesting. And I think I'm fascinated to kind of see your breakdown of Wanya's game, because, I didn't notice him very much. I don't think a lot of people notice him, and that's a really good sign for an offensive lineman, right? You don't want to hear your name called too much. So I don't know. Why don't we get into what Wanya Morris looked like in his first start of the season?
Absolutely. And to be honest, even going back to last year, I never thought Wanya Morris looked bad. Like, he looked playable at any given game he was in. He made mistakes, yes. There were times in week 2 when Kingsley didn't look like he could be on the field competing with some of those guys. And
right.
That stinks to say. He just wasn't ready for that kind of action. But what that did do is open the door for Wanya, and let's get some clips going. And now these aren't the highest level pass rushers in Atlanta. They're not like the world beaters like we saw out here with they're not like the world beaters.
It's not Trey Hendrickson.
It's not Trey Hendrickson or anything like that. And it's not even like some of the guys that we're getting ready to see on this run here. But, some of the things I do like from Wanya are he is a little bit nasty. Before I get into some of the pass pro stuff right here, real quick, the Chiefs are running the ball pretty effectively right now, even with backup running backs. Kareem Hunt's going to be on today, or he's going to be on the roster leading into this.
Yeah, I mean, let me say, Chiefs are number 1 in the NFL after 3 weeks in rushing success rate, meaning, whether it's first down, second down, third down, if they need to have a successful rush, they are doing it at the highest rate in the NFL, 56%. So, yes, you are 100% correct there.
They run the ball well even without Isaiah Pacheco. This is a nice little week for Carson Steele. He had a productive 72 yards on the ground, but just look at Wanya Morris here. tackle. He's got number 0 lined up head on over him. This is not an easy block. He's got to basically take 0 by himself and pin him in. The running power, Trey Smith pulls. Trey kind of gets up behind him a little bit because this linebacker is kind of dancing behind the defensive tackle. That's honestly what you want. It's not like the easiest block in the world for either guy just because of the alignment, but Trey gives the little assist there at the end of Wanya just getting physical to end the play there. I think that there's one thing that Wanya Morris has tipped his hat on since he's been on the team is that he is a physical player. He's not going to be he's not the guy that's going to, just come in and not want to play a physical brand of football. He comes in, he does what he can, and I think that the team really does like that.
That's why we kind of thought maybe he could play guard. They tried him at guard a little bit, right? Because he does have that powerful play to him.
Very powerful. And I'll show one more run clip here. Got a little motion from Mecole Hardman. Here's Samaje Perine, who they work to get him going a little bit more. He's still a little slow out of the gates too, but watch this double team on the backside with Wanya and Joe Tooney because this kind of helps set everything up. You get the double teams from Trey and Creed on the front side. Juwan Taylor misses, but the angles of everyone else are so good. I mean, you see how tight they are hip to hip, and Wanya and Tooney do a pretty good job of moving that guy and opening up that backside there. So that's definitely a positive play, and that's big. I mean, the Chiefs have basically a stable of unproven to backup running backs right now that Pacheco's out, and they came in, and it really didn't feel like they lost too much of an edge in the run game. In fact, in some instances, it looked like they played it better. Let's get into pass protection, though. This is the most important thing, especially in the Mahomes era.
Yeah.
And here's Wanya out here. He's got Arnold Ebiketie. Ebiketie's a speed rusher. Wanya struggles with speed a little bit last season, but you can see differences in his pass sets. He is a lot more patient right now, and we'll get into that. So he comes out. He's staying vertical. He's staying patient. He's not trying to attack. Maybe he can get his hands up a little bit more. But what he does, I like here, is he throws that big first stab, and he gets Ebiketie right in the chest. And now all he has to do, and Ebiketie's trying to, hit a little long arm to get away from him, but he's got control of that shoulder there. And you forget, Wanya Morris has like the most ridiculously long arms of anyone there's ever been, and he just makes that look easy. Ebiketie had 6 sacks last year. He's not like some horrid pass rusher. Like, I think for what they do in this 3-4 front, he's like a developing guy. So he's not just like a total pushover out there, but that was a good rep from
I loved him
there.
I loved Ebiketie in the draft. He was electric off the edge. He hasn't necessarily translated, but definitely someone that you got to, be on your toes for as a pass protector. So
I liked Ebiketie too, man. He his film against like Michigan and Ohio State, he looked like the real deal. But Here we go. They're just gonna run a little stunt here. Really good job by Wanya. And what I like here, look at this first step, vertical, right? Got his weight on his inside foot, but he's getting vertical. He's really improved on this. Last season, he was a big hip turner to the sideline. That's what Kingsley struggled with in week 2. But here, he does a good job of staying vertical, and he does a great job of reading the loop, or he didn't just fire out there and let the head up guy penetrate in. He just stays patient, and he actually flings this guy to the ground. This is just a great awareness of when to use that snatch right there. And you can see, just take a look. He's got him here. The guy's trying to put all his force into him, and Wanya snatches him, creates this massive pile, and Mahomes just has a nice little wall to work with. Then he fires one down to Watson for a first down and an easy completion. Love the physicality. Love that he was the guy there that made the play to open up Mahomes just by, having great awareness and using good fundamentals there. So that was a really, really positive play there. And, that's something that is going to help the Chiefs in the long run with how they do some things. We'll keep going with some positive stuff. He wasn't perfect all game, but they can live with what he did. You know what I mean? They can.
Well, I think you made the right point. Like, he just looks like solid, right? Like Kingsley was definitely like kind of, you could tell he was swimming. Like he was trying to keep his head above water. Wanya definitely looks like just a little more, comfortable, maybe is the word.
And that's maybe just a year of extra experience in the system, knowing the offense, trusting himself. Chip on his shoulder. He's like, yeah, maybe does make me mad that maybe it makes him a little mad that they figured, even though he started 4 games and looked fine, they still thought they would draft a guy in the top 100. And then that guy comes in and plays over him all preseason and into training camp and everything. I'm like, yeah, maybe he might have not been on board with all that. But here we come again with another one, and just passing off that twist again. He actually does a good job here at the end to throw the guy. This is what a lot of what Atlanta does, but you see he just really good timing, really good chemistry with Tooney there, and he takes Grady Jarrett and he tosses Grady Jarrett out of the picture to end the play. Not a great pass from Pat there, but you'll get into all that. But he definitely had time. I wouldn't say it was the pass rush that caused that.
No, and Pat even had, you probably won't, you may not have the play, but Pat even had the one play where, he kind of saved Wanya a little bit. Wanya did kind of get beat around the edge, and Pat just had really good pocket timing and integrity and threw it down the field. So it was kind of hit or, I think first half was really when Mahomes looked the most uncomfortable. It seemed like he locked in second half.
Yeah.
Trusted that blind side maybe a little more.
Definitely, and I did have that one clipped. I might show it up here in a minute because it was one of his 2 bad plays. Thankfully, his teammates Carson Steele and Pat helped him out on his 2 worst plays of the night. Honestly, I didn't think Wanya was the greatest in the run game. He had a couple physical blocks like we had earlier. He had some missing assignments also. He whiffed on a couple of them. I think that'll just be something he can work out. Here he is against Matt Judon, though, last drive of the game for the Chiefs offense. And as you see, there's a lot of stuff going on. They got guys walked up, and you can see here, there is no chip going to be given to anyone. Carson Steele is motioned out. So you got one-on-one with, Judon is definitely older, but you still have to respect his prowess. You see Wanya gets out of his stance quick, maybe oversets a touch, but where he can do these things, when he oversets his arms are so long, he can get on these guys quicker than someone. And this is where he's more advanced than Kingsley is. Kingsley's hands aren't good right now. Like when you see Kingsley, like his strike doesn't deliver a lot of power right now. And when he's firing out in these situations, he lunges. Wanya's not lunging. He's got a straight back. He's sitting down. His hips are flexed. And he's got a good amount of, and he's just throwing his arms out there. He's stabbing. His core looks tight. But you see here, he gets Judon. And now they're both kind of fighting hands. But you see Wanya, what I really like about him, just look at the extension with his ankles, knees, and hips. He's sitting down. He's fighting. He's holding it off, and his arms are long. It does give an advantage. And now he's worked back to getting the inside hand advantage, though. And now he's just sitting down anchoring. Man, there is nothing wrong with the protection on this play. Just not the greatest pass in the world, but I love seeing it. Just sitting down and anchoring. I mean,
the story of the Chiefs season, just get great pass protection and then somehow just the routes. I mean, it really was. I mean, Xavier Worthy just thought he was too close to Rasheed, so he slowed down, and it's just all a mess. But great block by Wanya. That was an awesome rep by Wanya.
It was. And I'll just show one of the bad reps really quickly here, just to show it, just because it is important somewhat. It was really. And I don't know. I think it was something weird on this first one. I don't have the one that Steele bailed him out on that did get completed, but they're in like this little no huddle here. They're definitely communicating. I kind of think he was just a little bit late off the snap, and he just takes a bad angle. I don't know if he was late off the snap, but it wasn't quite what he was expecting. Yeah, I think he's about a hair late out of there than everyone else, because you see Creed is going to. Yeah, he's laid out of his stance. Juwan Taylor, I mean, he can be a little quick out of his stance, but he got out of that one perfect. You see Joe Tooney starting to lean over, Trey starting to lean over, and Wanya's still, he's maybe starting to kick here just a little bit, but he was a little late out of his stance, so that's something to clean up. He hasn't been in too many 2-minute situations, though, yet this season live, and just makes a bad angle, but Pat's a thick old quarterback, so it's going to take a lot to bring him down there, but all in all, wasn't perfect by Wanya. There's still a lot to build on. That's good, though. Overall, pass protection was fantastic. And these guys aren't world beaters for Atlanta by any stretch of the imagination. But if you can have solid pass protection, that will trump a lot of things for the Kansas City Chiefs if you're an offensive lineman.
So I mean, yes or no? Is Wanya should Wanya just be the starting left tackle for now until kind of? I mean, what do you think about just the situation moving forward?
Yeah, I would let him out there. It's just because even when Wanya does get beat, he's not just getting blown up. Like there were times when Kingsley looked like he was being blown up. Like I mean, it sounds bad for me to say this, but there was like times he didn't look like he was a professional tackle. Like he looked
Yeah,
like a college guy. He's got reps of him with his arms doing the chicken wings and he can't get any extension. Like at least when Wanya does get beat, like we just saw, like he's going to make a legitimate attempt to recover from it, or he's going to try to come out the next play and not get beat again. Like Kingsley was in his own head. Like Wanya is at the point now, I think he can shake some of that stuff off. And that stuff will come in time for Kingsley. But right now, just putting the Chiefs in the best position to win is Wanya Morris. I had thought that it was Wanya somewhat in the offseason. Obviously, things happen in camp and everything. But now he's got a real opportunity here that, he's got basically a second chance to come out and prove he can be this team's left tackle. And it is good that he'll have a young guy like Kingsley, following up because it's going to keep that competitive pressure on both of them.
well, yeah, but I think the key point there is that the pressure really is not on Wanya. Like, he isn't supposed to be the guy anymore. So yeah, he can just kind of maybe play confidently. And I think your point too that he's probably motivated. I mean, I imagine he is. He's motivated to prove that he can be, the team's left tackle. But yeah, it's okay, guys. Kingsley Suamataia is 21 years old. They threw him out there. Week one as a rookie. I mean, it's hard to be a rookie in any position, especially blindside. And so I think it's nothing to really panic about. It's actually pretty encouraging to see that they've developed another guy to be solid, while they can wait on Kingsley to maybe reach his ceiling. So I think it's all positive, right? I think there's nothing
Yeah.
to be, yeah.
And I mean, Jawan Taylor may only be here another 2 years. So they both might end up playing alongside one another before it's all said and done.
That's a good point. Both have right tackle experience in college, so that is interesting. And both kind of profile as right tackles a little bit in the traditional sense. But all right, yeah. So you set the table. We are going to get into Patrick Mahomes' day in Atlanta, where he did, do enough to win. But I think we all saw that it was just kind of an uncomfortable, weird game for the second game in a row. He just had some throws where you're just like, what the heck? He had some footwork. And here's the theme of my topic or my section is that Patrick Mahomes came out and told us after the game that he needs to work on these things. So this is not us. It's not really being nitpicky. I mean, Patrick Mahomes knows the plays I'm about to show. He needs to fix something on these plays. Like it's because he told us, he said, I'm not getting the ball where I want it to be because of some technique stuff, or, I can't remember the exact terminology he used, but it's footwork or technique. And it was kind of on the first play of the entire game where the Chiefs have an awesome play designed, ready to roll, ready to pop. Y leak, right? They Y. It's usually done with the tight end because Rasheed is in that kind of tight end role right here. Although he's actually the outside receiver, Travis is in there, so it's not Y leak, but it's a leak route where he's going to fake like obviously he's blocking. It's a play action run, boom, 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 and then he's leaking out the other side, opens up, but the ball just low, uncatchable. And what you're going to see, this is the first play of the game, but you're just going to see Mahomes just not bring his foot through, his back foot. There's no follow through there. It kind of stays back. He kind of uses all of his arm, and that's what he said. He said I'm using too much of my arm, and that's what makes the ball die. I mean, that's stuff I learned as a young quarterback, and he knows exactly. Like it's almost not even worth talking about because he knows, but it is important to see exactly what he is referring to because it does show up on the field. And here's another example of it where, he just kind of his footwork just breaks down in the pocket when he climbs up. He's gonna have these front side routes to the over here, but these are the backside routes that he comes back to, and so you're gonna see it from the end zone angle. Once you read these front routes and why you want to go and you want to go back, he just kind of you just got to keep your footwork here. He just kind of breaks down, leads to a throw behind the intended receiver. If he just kind of keeps pocket integrity here, kind of just climbs the pocket with the straight shoulder, keeps his shoulder downfield instead of getting, he ends up right here, right? He ends up, boom, vertical or parallel to the line of scrimmage instead of, having his shoulder, truly pointed and his foot truly going towards the receiver downfield. And so again, it's just this little stuff, and that's what he's talking about. He's referring to these things.
Can you run that back for just a second?
Oh, absolutely.
If you could.
Yeah.
There's just I was just going to make a point a little bit about the protection on that one. It's just because I don't think he was quite comfortable, but he didn't have a reason not to be uncomfortable other than just
right.
Getting nervous back there.
No, I'm glad you point that out, because it's that's what happens. And when we see these stretches from Mahomes, is he's just kind of uncomfortable with maybe his pass protection, even when he doesn't need to be.
He doesn't need to run that far up. Well, I mean, look, Jawan Taylor and Wanya have the outside secured. Joe Tooney and Creed have everything secured, and Trey Smith is like hunting. All he has to do is take a couple of steps up, and he gets ready to go full. He's in between trying to step up and trying to figure out whether he wants to run and do something athletic, when he really just needed to take a couple of steps forward without having to go into the running motion. And that's just a matter of trusting it. And yeah, he got the heck beat out of him against the Bengals. So you can say, like, yeah, we get it. You're not quite comfortable, but with the wall up there, and Joe Tooney, by the way, looks like he's still an All-Pro. I think he still looks fantastic. I know people were wondering how he might look. He's been awesome, but yeah, just he's caught in between there when he doesn't really need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that from him. I mean, those plays happen from him and have happened these last few weeks a couple times. And so, again, when we look at footwork stuff, there's a few other things from Mahomes that popped out. And this is one of them. It's actually the play you showed earlier. Let me grab it up here. But again, it's just a little footwork stuff. And I'm just showing it because Mahomes is aware of it. Mahomes is going to fix it. And this is why stuff is not looking as clean as it needs to be. This is on third down, I think. Pretty sure it's on third down. You need to watch his lead foot. He looks all good. And then watch where his lead foot is. If you can see my mouse where it's circling, his lead foot is facing straight downfield. Day one quarterback stuff. Your lead foot, your toe needs to point towards where your receiver or where you're throwing it. And so when this happens to any quarterback, the ball gets behind. The ball gets thrown behind. It's just kind of natural. It's, and we know Mahomes doesn't need perfect technique to be the greatest quarterback that ever lived. But when these inaccuracies happen, that's what he needs to kind of clean up. And he knows that. And, one other thing that was kind of interesting, someone pointed out on Twitter when I was going through all this, Caleb, it was a turf game. It was his first game on turf. I feel like sometimes he was kind of maybe like just not feeling comfortable on the turf. Did you have any inkling of that at all?
I did not even realize this was his first turf game ever.
No, not ever. Sorry, just this season.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, maybe it wasn't just the grip, the way it was feeling. He's trying to take some extra precaution, do what he can. I wouldn't think it had that much impact on it, though, but it might have. I mean, just some underlying stuff, thinking about a little bit too much possibly, but I don't think it was like some giant deal, to be honest.
No, yeah. Again, he did look uncomfortable in the first half specifically. Second half, he definitely looked more confident in rhythm with the offense. But actually, this play is on the second to last drive. The Chiefs have a chance to seal the game. There's about 5 minutes left. And this is second down. And this is just some of the stuff where it's more timing on this one. But again, his footwork breaks down and it makes this check down inaccurate. But this ball just needs to be out quicker. Once you see the Falcons bail into this short zone, your routes that you have on this play, they're not going to be open where you want them to be. So just you need to get this, get to a third and short, right? It's second down mode, right? That's the thought process here. He knows he needs to check down. It just needs to come quicker. Boom, right here. If it happens quicker and it happens with Samaj Piran getting the ball in front of him with momentum towards the first down marker, we all seen Piran bowl over some people. This could have been a first down. This could have extended the drive, and maybe the Chiefs do seal the game before that last possession. So again, just some tiny things with the footwork. Again, it's just very skittish. Boom, right here. Once he hits that drop, once he sees all the Falcons in short zone coverage, he wants to go to the check down. You can see his footwork telling him to go to the check down, but he's still holding on to that ball for a second. That's why his feet are bad. it's just timing sometimes with him, or in this offense. So, but those are kind of the footwork things, Caleb. And again, he talked about that stuff, but it wasn't just footwork. It was just honestly to me like reading the field a little bit. You're gonna see on this interception in the red zone. This is just I was it's just bad. It really is just bad because this is a simple concept the Chiefs do all the time in the red zone. They're gonna have the smash concept, corner route, out route. Falcons blitz, so you're going to have pretty much man coverage, even though the guy on gray technically kind of leaves him and knows the safety is going to come over the top. But that's where it's just to float this ball. I mean, it was just too easy for Justin Simmons. You're going to see it from the end zone angle, but if you're going to throw this ball, Pat, first of all, it needs to be out right now. He has that extra hitch, that little extra hitch. Second of all, lobbing it up there is just an awful decision. This has to be a rope. This has to be right on Noah Gray, on where he's heading to before the corner gets over there, right? It has to be a little inside maybe because you don't want him to run into the corner, but it can't be a floater. It cannot be a floater. Mahomes has to just step and rifle this. And he knows Justin Simmons is on the other side. I mean, this dude has terrorized him his entire career. I mean, he's had red zone interceptions over him multiple times. It was just kind of one of those things where he's just not really reading it. Again, I get why he made the throw. Like, there's nothing wrong with going to where he went in that situation too. I think it was third down. It might have been second down, but you're getting blitz. He feels the blitz. He knows it's coming. He has to get rid of it, but it just has to be a rope or over the top, right?
I think he's feeling the pressure there, and I keep going back and forth. If you can go to that end zone angle, I keep going back and forth on how this guy got through. Obviously, someone's coming through, right? Like, there's some pass protection calls if the Chiefs are going full slide or full, just kind of like get big on protection. Wanya could potentially be the guy that has to slide inside there. But to me, it looks like Wanya was pretty for sure. I'm not taking care of this guy. I'm taking care of the defensive end. So there is, in theory, a guy that Pat's going to have to beat. I've seen some people on Twitter saying Steele blew the protection. I don't think so. You don't really want your running back crossing over in front of the quarterback in pass protection. Yeah. That's pretty basic stuff. I think Pat maybe just missed it, or he knew that was the guy that he was going to have to beat himself. Either way, I think he was definitely feeling it a little bit on that one, because instead of stepping up confidently, you see he just holds back on it. Like he puts all the weight on his back foot and lobs it from there instead of stepping into the throw, which in the end probably did take a bigger hit off of him than he needed to take. So maybe the interception was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I just wish it had been called out a little bit sooner. So that, I just wish the blitzer had been called out a little bit sooner so they could have either had someone come. Because, like, if I don't think Wanya is doing the wrong thing. I think that if they did make like a squeeze call, it may have helped Pat out a little bit more because he could have started running to the right and he would have just been a foot race with zero to a different kind of spot if maybe they slide the whole protection to the right or they call a squeeze call in there. I'm a little conflicted on that, but I do think at the end of the day, they looks like they have their slide right protection on initially, and Wanya probably was backside big on big. So, I mean, maybe that is on Pat also to call it out pre-snap.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, does someone just get fooled here? Do they just not believe that both linebackers are coming? Do they just say, okay, we're going to have, 6 on 6, so we're good?
And that's the thing the Chiefs see every week, man. They see different defensive looks than what guys show on film. So that's kind of the thing that they're always in a fight against.
Yeah. Well, no, I when it comes down to it, though, Pat has to know you cannot just lob this up for a possible pick, especially in the red zone. Again, like the pressure, you have to get rid of it. So he did the right thing to an extent. You just cannot you have to let the points, like you have a field goal opportunity that you just blew on the opening drive. Like you can't get frustrated that you didn't score a touchdown. It was a long drive. Yes, Mahomes, you want to score a touchdown, but you can't just hope in a prayer. Because that's what that throw was. And so, again, not the best 2 weeks for Mahomes. Here's another thing I noticed that, this is where, I don't know the Chiefs playbook, so I don't know exactly how Mahomes is supposed to read this stuff out. But to me, This looks like the front side of the play. I know Kelsey looks like the strong side of the formation's over here, but to me, this looks like the front side of the play, a dagger concept with these backside routes kind of being typical backside routes for a kind of 3 or 5 step drop action. I think he just wants to look at Kelsey because he's man on man with the safety. Like, why wouldn't you want to go there? I totally get that. But why isn't he throwing it then? Throw the dang ball. Throw it to Kelsey. And maybe the end zone angle is a better view of this, but he locks in on Kelsey. And as soon as Kelsey has is getting open, he just turns away, comes to his other routes. There's nowhere to go. And so maybe these are the backside routes, right? And so maybe he's supposed to come backside this whole time, or maybe he's not supposed to, look at this earlier. But watch Justin Watson. No one in the middle of the field. It's because they blitz. But to me, it just looks like this is a dagger concept. It looks like Worthy is taking the safety deep so Watson can come open. This looks like the front side of the route, and they have just wanted to go to Kelsey on the backside, which is okay. Hook up with your superstar tight end. But why aren't you throwing it then? It's just this is the weird stuff with his games these last 2 games. It's just he's kind of just indecisive sometimes. Sometimes he's too confident in what he's doing. And so you're just seeing those on those plays. But a few more examples of kind of just not getting on the same page. Not, this one isn't necessarily an example of that. It's actually a positive example of what Kelsey has been doing. Andy Reid talked about this play today in his press conference, how the Travis Kelsey attracted 3 players and it left Noah Gray wide open. And that's the sort of impact that you're seeing this season. Travis Kelsey is not having a good season, right, everybody? We all know, but there's nothing to panic about. He leads the team in routes. If he was really, someone that was slowing down, I doubt he would be the team leader in routes. They're still running him as much as they ever have. It's just he's getting a lot of attention. And Rashee Rice is balling. Rashee Rice leads the league in receptions and is second in receiving yards. Like, that is on Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey deserves some of that credit, Like, it's just like, just because his stats aren't good doesn't mean he's not impacting the game. You see it here. Noah Gray's wide open.
And I want to remind people, when Tyreek Hill was here, Travis Kelsey starting out slow, like that happened sometimes because the Chiefs just firebombed everyone for the first 3 weeks with Tyreek. And that kind of made everyone say, all right, we're going to cover 2. And then that's when you'd start to see everything open back up for Kelsey underneath. So let's just be a little bit patient here. I don't think the guy would be leading the team in routes if he was like horribly out of shape or if there was a feud going on. I think he's just getting the most attention of anyone in the NFL because he's the best tight end in the league. He's maybe the most dangerous threat he's maybe the most dangerous threat in the league when he is turned on and ready to go. So just give it a little time.
Well, and it's fair to look at the matchups he has played. The Falcons, the Ravens, and the Bengals all have very strong safety groups, or maybe not in the Falcons' case for the linebackers, but, they have played defenses that have the athletes to take him away at the position and just have like talented guys that maybe, make Mahomes weary of going downfield in certain windows. But here is just an example of like, this is Kelsey is doing his thing. Gets open against man coverage, is open across the middle. Mahomes just has open grass and isn't going to take it, isn't going to pass it up. Some people say, he was discouraged by Justin Simmons coming here running up, which is obviously what he sees right away, and that's why he feels like he has open space. But he was never looking at Kelsey here. He was just never. He really never was. And Kelsey was open, and it's a really good play. So there's nothing to be sad about. It's all good. So I think all that to say, Mahomes is definitely working through kind of maybe just feeling comfortable with his pass protection like we talked about. It's also important to mention, and you know what, let me get one more play in because I didn't bring this one up. But we are talking about, the same receiving core as last year, except MVS is replaced by a rookie, which Xavier Worthy is obviously a more talented player, but he's still a rookie. And there's still things that are going to happen. And I think this is kind of a good example of it. And this is also an example of Mahomes being late in his timing as well. But we'll break it down because Xavier Worthy's running a post. You come out in a too high look. A lot of times against too high, right? You're going to run it skinny because a lot of times you're having to run between these safeties. They're both kind of still deepening with you. But what you're seeing is Jesse Bates kind of has his eyes on Kelsey a little bit, or just kind of over the middle. Or that's not Jesse Bates. That's Justin Simmons. Excuse me. Bates over here is on the other side. He has his eyes on Kelsey. on the backside. So Worthy gets over the top of both of them. And so he has all this space to work over here. And you're going to see that he just doesn't really adjust his route. He still runs it on the book, like the book says, against too high, to run it skinny, run it between the safeties. When it's one high, you want to run it across the field because you just you want to run away from that deep safety. But Mahomes kind of waits for it and throws it a little late and throws it across the field. And the thing is, Worthy's initial angle on his route, he's forced to come back to the ball, and that's what allows the defensive back to have an angle to cut it off. If he would have actually started working further across the field once he came out of his break right here, he wouldn't have had to come back to the ball. He actually would probably had a better chance to just kind of go up and have an angle away from the DB to the ball. But Mahomes is still late here. Mahomes still needs to throw this way earlier. And I think his problem is he thinks 3 still has enough depth maybe to take away Worthy, and so he's waiting for Bates to clear that. But still, this is just kind of a late pass too.
And his footwork's off. You go back to it just a second. He gets he takes these little baby steps right before he's throwing. Like he's indecisive. He's taking those little baby steps, and he kind of crosses himself over for no real reason there when he just needs to be standing tall and getting ready to just rip it. So, yeah, I mean, there's indecision there. I think that, I mean, everyone's said about the Chiefs offense coming into the season, it could be like 2018. I think that they believe this offense could be really good. Obviously, not having Hollywood Brown, I think, is affecting a whole lot of timing, a lot of the situations they're in, because they did practice with him and anticipate he would be around all off season. And now it's not going to happen this year. But then I think it's probably time they take a step back before it does get out of hand, and they probably just resimplify them some stuff here and there and resimplify kind of what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, no, I agree, because, and they have the run game to do it. Another thing that's kind of funny is Mahomes is being pressured the least. He has the lowest pressure rate in his entire career right now through 3 games. So there's technically pass protection. There's technically a successful run game. There's no reason why this offense shouldn't be at full power, just, being able to hit these. Here's another thing I noticed about this play. You kind of, you could make the argument that he has a window to Kelsey right here. If he just throws it, it hits it in rhythm. But I think he really does want that deep shot. He just waits for Bates to clear. But again, it's just not the best throw. He really should have, even when he's late, he should have just laid it out all the way over here. Just put it all the way out here for Worthy to go get, instead of letting, So it was just overall kind of a messed up sequence. And so they got stuff to work on. And again, we are not just being nitpicky, because Patrick Mahomes talked about that. Andy Reid has talked about that there is stuff they can clean up despite the 3-0 start. And that's what we're going to continue to do here, because the Chiefs are one of the best, or the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. On the road to a three-peat potentially. And we got to be critical of that. We got to, be on, we can't just look at the wins and say, oh, they got it done. We got to see what the long-term effects are. So any final thoughts, Caleb, before we get out of here, on just maybe the offense moving forward, your confidence, or maybe just, like you just said, simplifying stuff? I mean, what does that look like? I mean, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, just with if they're going to play the too high, you got to go back to just hitting intermediate stuff. Go back to hitting some different spots in the middle of the field. I would maybe not think about going deep as much. I'd maybe start working some of these lateral looks with Worthy, get some sweeps going. And also, I know Andy Reid's going to be super vanilla right now, especially in a non-conference game like that, like this early in the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, take a look around the league. I mean, there's bad offense all over the place right now. Like, people are calling for the end of cover 2 defenses because offenses are struggling to adjust what the Chiefs have been dealing with for the last 3 years. And there are very simple, realistic solutions to beating that. I think a team like Seattle has figured it out. There's teams around the league that have figured it out. Buffalo's certainly starting to figure it out themselves, as you kind of look at some of the other teams that have been very successful out of the gate, much like the Chiefs this year. The Chiefs are figuring it out. They're making a commitment to run the ball. They're converting when they need to. I wouldn't be too worried about this. Hopefully we get some defense going on this show. Chiefs defense has been fun to watch. It's the same thing every week. Everyone panics and freaks out because some team comes out and runs their 10 best scripted plays, and then their real offense comes out the rest of the game, and the Chiefs are pretty much locked in. They shut down a really good run game this week, and I think that they could have a pretty big day against Los Angeles. So hopefully we can write about some defense, but the offense has just been too juicy to pass up on right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. And again, Nate Christensen broke down the defense this last week for the site. Great article. But yeah, no, I think when the offense gets rolling, we all know what it looks like. We all know how it works. So, we don't maybe need to break it down as much. And so maybe the offense gets rolling, gives us a reason to look at really what the defense is getting into, because it is a fun unit, veteran unit. It's going to be a fun year. So, and it already has been a fun year. I mean, geez, been on the edge of your seat for every second of all 3 games. Has not been one comfortable second. These three games so far. So that's what's fun about football, fun about the NFL, fun about the Chiefs. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Make sure you check us out next week. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at Ron_Kopp, at CJ Scoobs. We're posting film content all day. We didn't even get to all the clips we have on our TLs. And we'll be looking at what the Chargers got this weekend. So appreciate you joining. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the page. And we will catch you next time. We're out.